Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to the ECM podcast. I'm Caroline Fontagneux, and I'm very happy to host this series that will take you behind the scenes of new music on ECM Records. In this new episode, I'm meeting over Zoom with German cellist Anja Lechner to discuss her first solo album after years of collaborations on ECM, Bach, Abel, Hume, produced by Manfred Anja. We talked about freedom, composer's dynamics, the art of playing solo, and so much more. Well, I guess my first question is, how did you select that repertoire?
I was wondering, what do I really want to say with my cello? And of course, then Bach is the most important composer for all of us, I guess. And I started playing the music by Bach in my childhood, and I always would play it in my solo concerts. And I think when I was studying, I learned that Rostropovich, the great Russian cellist, whom I really adored, recorded the Bach suites very late. I think he was already end of 50. And I thought, wow, such a famous man. And he really waited until the last moment that he recorded. That made an impression on me. But that's it. And now I was free to decide what to record. And I thought, after all my travels I had done within the music, into different genres and cultures, and I want to get back to my roots, and that's the music by Bach.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought also I would like to give a different light on it through the music of those two other composers, like Tobias Hume and Carl Friedrich Abel, because I had discovered this music through Jordi Savall, the great viola da gamba player who is so important for the music world. And yeah, I fell in love with some of those pieces, and I tried to find arrangements. And I have the feeling that Bach's music sounds different after listening to the other composers, because in fact they are really very different.
Abel's and Hume's pieces were written for viola da gamba, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for those who don't know, can you explain briefly the difference between cello and viola da gamba? And then we'll go into what it means as a different for you as a player. But technically, those are very different instruments.
Yeah, well, it looks a bit the same when you play it, because you hold it in between your knees, and but the shape is different. The viola da gamba is older than the cello, so during Bach's time, the cello was really a modern instrument, and the viola da gamba has 6 strings or even 7 strings. That's why in the music for this instrument you have much more chords, and you can play arpeggios very well, but also fantastic melodies.
The interval between the strings
They
is
are
different.
different, of course. They are tuned like a guitar. So that's why some pieces would not really work for the cello, because you cannot play the chords.
My next question is, did it require some kind of adaptation? And also, I'm guessing in terms of physical and mental agility to play a piece that is written for an instrument. Obviously, notes are notes, but what agility it requires and what adaptation it requires to play a piece that is originally written for viola da gamba on a cello.
Mm-hmm. Well, some pieces are really easy to play on the cello. I had to change my technique a little bit because, for instance, a minor chord on the cello would always end with a sixth or an octave or so. But on the viola da gamba, it would always finish with a chord. How do you say? Not a quarter note, but the interval.
Oh, okay. Like, yeah, chords, I guess.
Yeah.
Fourth.
Fourth. Oh, yes. Thank you. So this is strange on the cello, but of course you can do it. And all what you need is you really need to want to make it happen, to make it possible. And of course, sometimes I took out some notes. Sometimes I changed the order of the notes within the chords. And for instance, this prelude, the arpeggio piece by Abel, it's not feeling comfortable on the cello, but I don't mind.
I'm sure it was also some kind of exciting challenge to be like, I want to make it sound like it was written for it. And if it isn't.
But of course, it sounds different on the cello, and I like that.
Yeah.
It gives a different color or expression, emotion, maybe.
I was talking to a friend, her cellist friend, who mentioned the example of Schubert Arpeggio Sonata that is supposed to be so easy on the viola da gamba and suddenly becomes so hard on cello, even if you're a very good cellist.
Yeah, it's a very good example.
Yeah.
Because the higher string is missing, it's the different tuning. But there's a few recordings with the arpeggione. It's not the viola da gamba, it's the arpeggione, but it has also this different tuning, like a guitar. It doesn't sound so easy as well on the original instrument. That's very often with Schubert's music. When I used to play still with my string quartet, with the Rosamunde quartet, we had one project where when we played all the Schubert quartets, and especially the first one where he was still very, very young, like 14, 15 years old, but already sounded like Schubert. But it was so hard for the violinist, not for the cello, unfortunately. But that's Schubert. His way of composing is not so comfortable for the instrument, but if you are in love with the music, you don't mind.
What would be a common thread between those three composers, except for your love for them?
Well, maybe there's some connection between Abel and Bach, because the father of Abel probably was the cellist who played in the orchestra of Johann Sebastian Bach. And Abel had a concert series, built up a concert series with one of the sons of Bach in London. So musically, I would say it's just music for the instrument. It's, as you said, it's music that I love. But there's a variety, because the music by Hume gives the most freedom, because they're quite short. The emotion is very clear, and it's more melodic than music by Bach, much more. So, and I can play also higher. I can play in a different register. And
it's interesting that you talk about the freedom, because obviously your work with François Couturier, improvisation, has a big part in this. And I remember also a conversation that I had with Keith Jarrett where we were talking about Bach and his love for Bach. And he was saying that Bach for him was the composer that gave him the most freedom to just think in terms of improvisation. It's not about improvisation on his music, but the freedom that Bach is giving for him. It was saying that was giving him the highest inspiration for improvisation. is it something that you would relate to?
Well, I would say Johann Sebastian Bach was a genius, and Keith Jarrett is a genius too. So no, I can understand that he is saying that, but it doesn't work for me. Of course, the music inspires me a lot, but I don't even think about comparing something. Of course, I believe that my experience with improvising and with playing with improvising musicians changes also my way of playing classical or composed music. Because when I was younger, I very often I thought it has to be like that and it has to be like that, and I was very strict in how music should sound. And now I'm much more open and more flexible how it could sound also, even if I think it should be different. In improvisation, you should not think. I mean, you should not think in music in general. You should think when you practice and when you rehearse, but when you play, you should not think. And this you can learn much better in improvisation. And also how improvising musicians appreciate what you do, and if you do something unexpected. In classical music, this is still somehow you should play all the notes and they should be right. But the interesting thing is if you don't think and if you know everything, but then try to be free.
Is it hard to let go and give in to the unexpected when you're used to follow the rules and follow what's written and
Yeah,
things?
that's very difficult. That's extremely difficult, but you have to do it because otherwise you're just a technician. No composer is interested in that in the end.
But wait, that's interesting. Do you think that classical artists who never improvise, never work with improvisers and follow the rules of what composer write on the music sheet, do you think they're just technicians? Like it means that
Oh, no.
add soul to this?
Of course, some are, but of course, there's fantastic creative musicians. You don't necessarily need to improvise, but if you do it, for sure, you will. It will change your way of playing. It's just
Yeah,
that.
it
Yeah.
opened a new world for you, definitely.
But if you listen to a musician like Andras Schiff, for instance, for me, he knows more rules than I do, more music, and but for me, very often he sounds like he would improvise, like he would play the piece for the first time, and this is the most important.
Bach was one of the first, I mean Vivaldi, but Bach was one of the first to treat the cello as a solo instrument. And you've been playing a lot of solo shows, but that's your first solo recording. So that kind of makes sense that also you picked some Bach sonatas because it's a little wink to our friend Bach. But what took you so long, if I may ask, and why now?
I really don't know. It's more that I don't like to be alone in music so much. So that's why I played string quartet for nearly 20 years. And I love to share music. And I always wanted to record a solo, but then there was this project, and there was that project, and it just happened. And now Manfred asked me, "Would you like to record now?" And then said, "Yeah."
Okay.
Now it's the right moment.
That was good timing. That was the right opportunity.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about the recording context in a second, but I want you to talk to me about your instrument itself. Can you introduce me to your cello?
My cello is very, very, very old. from 1680. And yeah,
Before Bach.
yeah, it's really old. I mean, it's not very healthy, but the sound is fantastic and so warm. And for me, it's the ideal sound. And since it's so old, it understands this music also very well. That's my feeling. And it's not only the instrument, it's also my bow. I'm using a Baroque bow for this repertoire, which allows you much more articulation and a lighter way of playing. And yeah.
I want to take a second to talk to you and to hear you about your relationship with ECM, because over 30 years of collaboration, you've been working with a lot of different artists, a lot of different projects, a lot of different atmospheres, a lot of different musics. And I was wondering what was the common thing between all those projects and how you would describe your relationship with this label.
Well, when I want to describe my relationship with a label, I have to talk about Manfred, because ECM is Manfred's life, I would say. And yeah, the most important to start with is that the relation with Manfred is based on mutual appreciation and loyalty. And this results in a lifelong collaboration with most ECM musicians, like Keith Jarrett, Jan Gabarek, Eleni Karaindro, Avo Pärt, just to name a few. And also me.
Also you.
Yeah, and Manfred has the gift to lead a musician to himself and to strengthen his talent and or his qualities, and sometimes also he helps to discover your own qualities, because sometimes might have a strange concept of what you should do, or yeah, to find your path, you find your way. It's very important to be in touch with him and to discuss and to trust that, yeah, and then he introduces you to music, to musicians or to composers. And in my case, this started with Valentin Silvestrov. We worked with the Rosamunde Quartet together with him first. Later, I also worked with him just as a cellist. He composed for me. Then it was Tigran Mansourian. Also with him, we started working with the Rosamunde Quartet, and later on I played a lot of his music. He also composed for me, and through the music of Tigran Mansourian, I again met new musicians. It was I had the honor to record with Patricia Kopachinskaya the double concerto by Mansourian, this fantastic and very sweet person, the violinist Patricia. And then also it led to the collaboration with the Tallinn Chamber Orchestra and Tonu Kaljuste. I think he first performed nearly all Arvo Pärt compositions, and yeah, I met also Arvo Pärt. We played music by him with the Rosamunde Quartet again. Then he, very important, he introduced me to Dino Saluz.
Yeah.
Also, we started working with Dino in the beginning with the quartet, and later on I continued with him in duo or in trio with his brother, Felix. This was a very, or still is, a very important musical relationship for me. Then he introduced me to Vasilis Stavropoulos. He introduced me to François Couturier, and we started with the Tarkovsky Quartet. Manfred is very much interested in movies and film, so that's why this project with music dedicated to Andrei Tarkovsky was very special to me, or it is still. And again, there we started to build a duo with François. This is only a few I'm mentioning now.
I remember us talking about your emotional attachment to people, pieces of music, and places. And everything that you described here, you worked with a lot of people from a lot of different countries. But in the end, recording Bach today is also a way to come back to a German composer.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because we're working with all those people I have mentioned. I was traveling a lot into their countries, but also in different cultures. And with Bach, I returned. I came home. Finally, I could accept to
reconnect with those roots.
Yeah, to reconnect, right.
You had to go through tango and
yes,
all styles of like Armenian traditional music and Greek music and a lot of contemporary classical music as well. Yeah. So it all makes sense.
Yeah, right. And then there's another thing which is really important, how Manfred chooses the right room for the music. So he would never say, I'm recording there, no matter what kind of music it is. It always has to fit to the music. Also, he's really spontaneous, and everything is about listening. So even the setup of the microphones, it's not that he would have a certain setup. He's always deciding in the moment. And also the way of playing during a recording, he interacts with you. He's a part of the recording. He's like a third man or the fourth or fifth or whatever.
Yeah, he's a member of the band.
And sometimes, especially in improvisations, it can happen that you get stuck and that you don't know how to continue. And then he enters the room, the stage, so to say, and interacts with us. And then suddenly it starts to breathe again. And this is also very, very important part of this relationship.
Anja Lechner about her solo album Bach Abelhume. Thank you for joining, choosing, and listening to our ECM podcast. I'm Caroline Fontagneux, and I look forward to sharing more music with you in the next episode.